Well, everyone, it's time for us to go and take a look at the iPhone 15 Plus and compare it against the iPhone 13 Pro Max and see which particular iPhone is a better one for you. Now, I will definitely tell you, if you have all the money in the world, the 15 Pro Max is probably the better iPhone that I would probably recommend every single person to go ahead and buy. But I will definitely tell you, this specific device is, both these devices are still 100% worth buying. They're very good phones, and I can't think that there's one that's like crazy, better than the other one. But both these devices are killing it. And if you want to pick up either one of these phones, links will be down in the description. You can get them from there and you can help support the channel at the same time. Now, starting off with the outside of both these devices, the iPhone 13 Pro Max, which came out in 2021, on the front of this phone has a 6.1-inch Super Retina XDR OLED display, and it's a very good panel. I've always felt like this panel was very good, and there really wasn't a lot to complain about with this panel at that time. I think the specific screen of this thing looks very, very good. You're getting the notch up top, which isn't really too much to complain about, but you're getting pretty thin bezels, so this is a fairly good looking display, and I still feel like this is a very, very good looking phone nonetheless. Now, on the iPhone 15 Plus, this particular device on the front has the same size screen, so 6.7 inches, Super Retina XDR OLED display, but there's a few things going on with this panel that make it different than the iPhone 13 Pro Max's display, both for the good and the bad. The 15 Plus has that dynamic island, which is very good. So you're comparing a dynamic island display over the notch on the 13 Pro Max, which is honestly very cool, but there's a pretty big difference here. The 13 Pro Max does have that ProMotion display, which is genuinely very nice to have. Having ProMotion is really cool, and I love having that type of capability. On the iPhone 15 Plus, we don't really have ProMotion. We have that standard 60Hz display, which for better or for worse, it is what it is. There's not much we can do about it. But it would be really nice to have some sort of ProMotion or 120Hz display on that phone. We don't have it. There's not much we can do about it right now, but that is one of those things to kind of keep in mind on the iPhone 15 Plus, that we are kind of lacking that type of display. But regardless, very good panels on both. Both have flat sides. The iPhone 15 Plus kind of has this curved side to it. On the bottom, we do have a Lightning port on the iPhone 13 Pro Max, which honestly is pretty good. Having that Lightning port is awesome, and again, there's not really a lot to complain about there. I like having Lightning ports, it's great. But the iPhone 15 Plus has that Usb-C port, which is genuinely very, very amazing. Having Usb-C is awesome, and I love having that type of capability. Is it perfect? No, and there's still a lot of things that Apple can do to kind of improve that type of landscape on this type of device. But I will tell you, regardless, having Usb-C and Lightning is awesome, and you can pick or choose whichever device you prefer there. But Usb-C is definitely the one I would prefer. On the back of both these phones, frosted glass backs, which look amazing. Having frosted glass back is really cool. And once again, that's something that I always look for and prefer when I'm having a device like these, because I want a device that's going to have basically the best type of capability. And between these two, those frosted glass backs are really nice, and that's something I actually genuinely enjoy having. So on the back side, again, MagSafe capability on both, wireless charging, IP certification, lots and lots of stuff going on the back side of both of them, which is really cool. And I genuinely love having these types of backs on both these phones. Triple camera setup on the 13 Pro Max, dual camera setup on the iPhone 15 Plus, and that is kind of how both these phones somewhat kind of compare from that standpoint. I will probably tell you, when it comes down to it, both these phones, in my opinion, get a thumbs up for me from that perspective. I think they absolutely dominate in terms of the bodies, but I will definitely tell you the 13 Pro Max feels much more premium on the exterior than the 15 Plus as far as I can tell. Now, moving on to the other side of things, with the camera. The cameras on both these devices are very good, and that is something I like about both these phones. Now, on the 13 Pro Max, you're getting that triple camera setup, a wide, ultra-wide, and telephoto lens. With the iPhone 15 Plus, you're getting a dual camera setup, a wide and ultra-wide camera. So this is where things get a little bit different, I would say. So with the iPhone 14, let's say with the 13 Pro Max, this camera is still very good. Having that wide angle lens, the ultra-wide camera, telephoto lens is honestly very nice, and that kind of makes this phone still feel very premium. There really isn't a lot to complain about from this specific phone from that perspective. I still feel like, Apple did a really good job from the 13 Pro Max camera, and that is something that I love about that phone. It's not a perfect device by any means, but like I said, I think, Apple did a good job with that device. And it's still a very good feeling phone from that specific perspective. In the cameras, you can get, 15x zoom. You have 4K at 60 on the front and the back, cinematic mode, portrait mode, lots and lots of overlap here. With the iPhone 15 Plus, you are getting not necessarily an upgraded camera, but you are getting a higher megapixel count on that wide angle lens. So that is one cool advantage going for the iPhone 15 Plus. on top of that, you are still maintaining things like, 10x zoom here. So not as much zooming in capability as a 13 Pro Max, but still quite a bit. You're getting a very good camera on the 15 Plus as well. There may be some, additional advantages of going to the 15 Plus, but for the most part, it is still a very, very good camera. And I still like the 15 Plus camera for sure. So from that perspective, that kind of covers it up there as well. The 15 Plus camera is great. I think the 13 Pro Max camera is probably just as good, if not a little bit better in some ways, but the 15 Plus camera is probably better, to be honest. Now, in terms of software and longevity, the 15 Plus is probably going to be the one that's going to last longer here than the 13 Pro Max. But how much longer, we really don't know. So this is where things get a little complicated, I would say, because between both, I genuinely do not know which one is going to be the, one that's, the 15 Plus is going to last longer, but I don't know by how much longer it's going to last. So with the 13 Pro Max, like this device is still going to be supported for many more years. It's not like tomorrow this thing's going to be discontinued. The 13 Pro Max is still going to be here for many, many years to come. And that's something that I actually like. I like having a device like the 13 Pro Max that's still going to be here for many years. It's still going to have a good, solid experience. And I think that's a really cool thing going for the 13 Pro Max. With the iPhone 15 Plus, as I mentioned before, this phone is just getting started. So we still have like so many years until this device gets, drop support. So I wouldn't really even worry that much about the iPhone 15 Plus from that perspective, because that device is still going to be here for so many years to come. So from that perspective, that kind of covers it up there as well. Now, in terms of the performance on both these devices, the iPhone 13 Pro Max as of right now has an Apple A15 Bionic chip inside of it with 6GB of RAM, where the iPhone 15 Plus has that Apple A16 Bionic chip inside of it with 6GB of RAM as well. Now the 13 Pro Max is still a very good performing phone. From everything I've ever done with this phone, from my whole entire time using this phone, I had a very solid experience with it, and it was a very fun phone to kind of own. I loved a few things about this phone. One, big display, very fast phone, but also that ProMotion display was a very nice thing to have. Having ProMotion is a super nice thing, and that's something I actually love having on this type of device. Now, again, it's not like a perfect type of experience, not a perfect type of phone, but I generally do like having the 13 Pro Max because it is a very fast performing phone. From everything I've ever done with it, it's been great, and I don't really have too much to complain about, again, from that specific perspective. Now, on the iPhone 15 Plus, this is a very solid phone as well. This is a better performing phone overall than the 13 Pro Max, but it does lack a ProMotion display, which doesn't make the phone faster, but it kind of makes the phone feel a little bit faster, if that makes any sense. So that's always been something that I've always kind of looked at. And personally for me, when I'm getting something like the 15 Plus, I'm a big fan of that type of device. It's a fast performing phone. Once again, there's not a lot to complain about there. And if I were to use one phone over the other, I would probably recommend buying something like the 15 Plus if you want the better performing phone, but the 13 Pro Max is still there and it's still a very good performing phone as well. Funny enough, on Apple's website, Apple still states that the iPhone 13 Pro Max is giving you better battery life overall than the 15 Plus. So that might be another thing to kind of keep in mind, that if you're wanting the better performing phone, the 15 Plus is probably the way to go, but the 13 Pro Max is still a very good performing phone as well. So to kind of sum up this video, what I'll definitely tell you is, between both these phones, I definitely do think a device like the iPhone 13 Pro Max is probably the better phone overall in some ways. I feel like this is a, probably the more flagship phone that you could probably get, but as a phone that I would recommend the average person, the 15 Plus is probably the one I'd recommend. This is the device that's going to be giving you probably better capability in almost every single way. It's going to be the faster phone. It's going to be a phone that's going to be giving you just more features and stuff in general. So that's kind of just one thing to keep in mind. Again, it's not the biggest deal in the world, but that's probably what I'd recommend doing in this case, is just buying the 15 Plus. If you can buy a 13 Pro Max in the used market, I would highly recommend doing that as well. So that kind of covers it up there. If you have any other thoughts or questions, let me know in the comment section below. Hit the like button, that'll mean so much, but definitely hit that subscribe button. More importantly than everything else, I love every single one of you guys. Hopefully I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace out till then.